Actually, the fig tree was in the way. The way is mentioned many times in the Bible. The way is mentioned in Buddhism. The way is mentioned in the Upanishads. The fig tree in the original text was in the way of Jesus Christ. The way being going within, disciplining, circumcising, as it is used, the lower nature, the lower desires to illuminate your heart. And when Jesus saw this tree, the fig tree that was in the way, so it's inside the way, it's within meditation. And when he sees it, it is covered in leaves, but no fruit. Well, first of all, what do leaves do? Leaves block the sun. Now, I've shown in my other video, Jesus is either Son or the Son or both of God. The light of the world, the sun in the sky. The word Jesus equals 888 in Greek numerology, which is the number of the sun in the sky. The sun that travels with the 12 star signs, Jesus travels with the 12 disciples. Did the power of the most bright and infinite source of light in our night sky manifest as a human being on the planet? And if so, think about that. The leaves block out the sun, but on the way, in the way of meditation, you find a tree with nothing but leaves. And it blocks out the light of the world. The light of the world is it blocks out Christ. The leaves block out the sun from the sky. They block Christ from within in an allegorical sense. And you can say, well, that doesn't show anything. That can't possibly be it. But what is a fig? A fig is not a fruit. A fig is actually an inwardly blossoming flower. So as you are going into within the way of meditation to pursue Christ, and Christ comes along the path and he finds a tree within you with leaves. The leaves are your thoughts. They're your lower desires that you never circumcised. And you didn't blossom inwardly. You weren't an inwardly blossoming flower to become the fig fruit, to please Christ, because he couldn't get through. The light of the world couldn't get through. Jesus couldn't get his light through the leaves because you hadn't circumcised those leaves. In meditation, you hadn't severed the lower desires and the thoughts attached to them.
Yeah, love letters to God. I wonder if she reads them or if they get lost in the star.
Hey guys, I had a strange conversation here with a member of my staff, and we were discussing circumcision, and it's made me want to make this video. And what he was discussing is that how the government here have started in certain regions asking men to get circumcised. And I just wanted to discuss this in a spiritual sense, where it's coming from. This is a deeply religious country, and doesn't mean that the country's in any better shape for it. You still sadly have many corrupt persons and so on and so forth, but at least there's a community based around church much more than the West, shall we say. And a lot of those communities are very powerful and strong, and I admire that. I heard the other day that a certain congregation, I made a video about it, but I haven't uploaded it yet. Congregations were praying for myself because I'd been sick, and it's very touching, and I like that that's existing in the communities here. But this thing that all men should be circumcised, I said to the person I was talking with, do you think God made your body wrong? Do you think he made you, gave you a foreskin on your penis and expects you to cut it off because it's wrong to have it? Do you think he did that? Why didn't he just make you without it to begin with? And I said, I don't feel I know better than God. So I presume that it's not a necessity. However, we have the discussion here because it's so culturally normal that should children have the opportunity to have it done, which is a very difficult aspect of the culture here for because I see no necessity in it. I truly don't. I think God made us how we're supposed to be made. But where's it coming from? Well, I've never done a video about this, but it's very clear, very, very clear, that circumcision is not supposed to be constantly taken literal in the Bible. And the Bible itself tells you not to, which is one of the rare instances where it outlines it there in front of you and tells you, hey, this circumcision is not literal. It tells you this circumcision is a circumcision of the heart. You cut away that which is not necessary. You cut away the negative desires. You cut away the negative aspects of your five senses to illuminate your heart. This is written in the Bible. The circumcision we speak of is not literal. It's a circumcision of the heart. So it's very clear to eye. But if you look through any of the scriptures of the dictionaries and such about mysticism and the ancient texts of mysticism and the explanatory scriptures of mysticism, circumcision is indeed a cutting away of the lower desires of the human person. So we have here this situation where it is that circumcision is the physical cutting away of a man's foreskin from his penis. And in actual mystic sense, for all circumcision existed and it has its reasons, and so be it. However, in the truest sense, it was supposed to be taken as cutting away the desires of the lower mind to illuminate your heart. And it says it outright says it in the Bible. So this is the circumcision that is meant by this. But here they believe to be an obedient Christian, you must be circumcised. But what a shame that people are willing to obey, and what a shame that the Bible was not written more clearly for people, or what a shame the Bible is written in a way that only once the mind has been altered into a state of God consciousness can you begin to understand these things. But also it's very sad in a country like this where literature is not translated well into Swahili. And of course I have access to way more literature than someone who can't read English than people do in this country. And it's very difficult that at this point in our existence and timeline on the planet that the scriptures that I have access to very easily at my fingertips, many here do not. So that to be an obedient Christian, they believe they must physically circumcise themselves. Whereas when I read that, I can go to my computer, I can start researching, I know where to go and look around, find things, read my books. Okay, so it says here, circumcision means to cut away the lower desires of the heart. But wouldn't it be wonderful if the information I had was here? And this is why development is very key, I feel, on every level. Because if as a country develops, then they can start translating the literature I have. Or they can start learning English so they can tap into the literature I can tap into. And they can see these things for themselves. And instead you've got grown men putting themselves through a lot of pain and discomfort because they feel they're supposed to be obedient to God. But a man who does not cut away the desires of his lower nature and cuts away his foreskin has done a very fruitless exercise indeed. For his lower nature can still overcome him and drive a massive wedge between he and God. He can sin, take himself away from the present moment, because in the present moment is where God dwells. And it would be so wonderful if there was a translation of the Bible to cut through the mysticism. And I would love one day, if I had the time to write such, and it's in my mind about doing these ebooks, to rewrite some of the passages from the Bible in their true form and reference how it's translated and why it was done that way. If that would be obedient to God, I would do it. Truly I would, because then you would have men, instead of feeling, I want to serve God, what do? I cut off my foreskin. You would have men who say, I want to serve God, what do? I stop indulging in my lower desires. I stop being sexually immoral. I stop overindulging in the consumption of alcohol and meat. I stop lying. I stop trying to get ahead by this means and that means. I stopped viewing things negatively. I stopped beating my wife, which is, a major problem in domestic violence is quite high here. But a lot of those men are circumcised. What good did it do them? But if they'd circumcised the lower nature and allowed their heart to illuminate, those problems would all go away. And that's the point, is we have all these pointless things that we're doing on the planet, and they are not assisting the planet. And this is why we need the mysticism, because then men who are drinking too much and beating their wives and not helping their children and treating women badly and indulging in the law, and women as well, but those men who have gone out and cut off their foreskin and still indulge in the lower desires, if I could circumcise them properly and cut away the lower desires, you could create an army of real, true Christians, followers of Christ who live as Christ. But they don't even realize it. They think they can just go around sinning, ask for forgiveness, and do these pointless exercises which are not necessary, like placing olive oil on your forehead because you need to be anointed with oil. The oil is the sacred secretion. It must be anointed in meditation so as you can sit at the right hand of God, just as Jesus Christ did. The right hand being the right hemisphere. Now this literal stuff, it's very obvious, guys, to many of us, if you can just sit and meditate and contemplate on that which you're reading. Now, for instance, I've done a video before about the fig tree in the Bible. People still feel that Jesus walked over to a fig tree, the Prince of Peace, the lover of all mankind, the saviour of the planet, and because it wouldn't give him a fig fruit, he killed it. He cursed it. I mean, I understand, because it says that. It says he went over and he cursed the fig tree. But think about that. Think about it. Jesus went up to a fig tree, looked at it, there's no fruit, right, you're dead. Kills the fig tree and walks off. Make sense of that. What does that teach you? Why is it in the Bible? Why does it tell you this random story of a day that Jesus got pissed off at a tree and killed it because it wouldn't give him a piece of fruit? The Prince of Peace killed the tree because he was hungry and it never gave you bastard tree, boom. Why? Why are we sitting around believing that that is what happened instead of saying, come on, there's got to be more to that. There is more to that. But these are the problems we face. But I use that as a good example to see why it's not literal. It's ridiculous to think that that is in the Bible. To say, here, look, Jesus killed a tree. Next story. Why? Why did he do that? And there's all these ridiculous explanations out there. Oh, Jesus was hungry and the tree never bought. And that shows that if you don't obey Christ, then you're not. No. No. You see, actually the fig tree was in the way. The way is mentioned many times in the Bible. The way is mentioned in Buddhism. The way is mentioned in the Upanishads. The fig tree in the original text was in the way of Jesus Christ. The way being going within, disciplining, circumcising, as it is used, the lower nature, the lower desires to illuminate your heart. And when Jesus saw this tree, the fig tree that was in the way, so it's inside the way, it's within meditation, and when he sees it, it is covered in leaves, but no fruit. Well, first of all, what do leaves do? Leaves block the sun. Now, I've shown in my other video, Jesus is either Son or the Son or both of God. The light of the world, the sun in the sky. The word Jesus equals 888 in Greek numerology, which is the number of the sun in the sky. The sun that travels with the 12 star signs, Jesus travels with the 12 disciples. Did the power of the most bright and infinite source of light in our night sky manifest as a human being on the planet? And if so, think about that. The leaves block out the sun, but on the way, In the way of meditation, you find a tree with nothing but leaves. And it blocks out the light of the world. The light of the world is it blocks out Christ. The leaves block out the sun from the sky. They block Christ from within in an allegorical sense. And you can say, well, that doesn't show anything. That can't possibly be it. But what is a fig? A fig is not a fruit. A fig is actually an inwardly blossoming flower. So as you are going within the way of meditation, to pursue Christ, and Christ comes along the path and he finds a tree within you with leaves. The leaves are your thoughts. They're your lower desires that you never circumcised. And you didn't blossom inwardly. You weren't an inwardly blossoming flower to become the fig fruit, to please Christ, because he couldn't get through. The light of the world couldn't get through. Jesus couldn't get his light through the leaves, because you hadn't circumcised those leaves. In meditation, you hadn't severed the lower desires and the thoughts attached to them. And so it is that the tree will never bear fruit, because the tree is covered in leaves, and the leaves don't let the light in. But if the leaves weren't there and the fruit was there, you know that light which is Jesus Christ, can come through, and we can blossom inwardly, and the fig fruit can appear. Instead, people think that the most peaceful, loving man that ever lived walked up to a tree and killed it because it wouldn't give him something to eat. It didn't happen that way. It's not what's meant to happen. Now, in my other video, I mentioned the importance of the fig tree in every religion, and this is why you must read other faiths as well, even if you are sure that you're following a Christian path. I live a more Christian path than any other faith I've seen. So I could probably say I'm Gnostic Christian. I think I would be comfortable to say, if I was going to say I'm anything, I would label myself, I think a Gnostic Christian would be what I'd label myself. But it doesn't mean I can't gain great benefit from things like the Upanishads, which explain consciousness, or things like Buddhism that tell me how to follow the way with more ease. For all, I can still learn how to follow the way from the teachings of Jesus Christ, and by fasting and disciplining and so on and so forth. But in my other video, I give some quotes, and I've got them here because I don't remember the full quotes off the top of my head. But in the Bhagavad, it says, the Supreme Divine Personality said, they speak of an eternal Ashvath tree. Ashvath or Ashvat tree, I don't know how to pronounce it correctly, so someone can correct me if it's Ashvat or Ashvath tree is a fig tree. I had to research this myself whilst I was reading these texts. Now, the roots of its branches, the roots are above the branches of this tree. That's very telling in itself. But let me read the full thing first, okay? The Supreme Divine Personality said, they speak of an eternal Ashvat or Ashvath tree, with its roots above and branches below. Its leaves are the Vedic hymns, the leaves. And one who knows the secret of the tree is the knower of the Vedas. The Vedas is the way, the same way that is spoke of when Jesus gets to the fig tree. Now, this tree, its roots are above. So, the root above the branches, the core, the root, its nourishment is coming from above. The higher place. It's not coming from the lower nature. It's coming from the higher place. With this tree, thankfully, its leaves are Vedic hymns. Vedic hymns are good thoughts, strong thoughts, positive thoughts, godly thoughts. They are not thoughts like the plain old leaves that Jesus Christ saw. They are good thoughts. They are not thoughts, leaves that block out the light. like the leaves on Jesus' tree. These leaves of Vedic hymns, they are beautiful. Those who know the secret of the tree understand the way, the Vedas. How straightforward it is to understand the Vedas. The tree which fruit is an inwardly blossoming flower. You and I are inwardly blossoming flowers. We blossom inwardly in meditation. We overcome our lower nature. The roots nourish themselves as you must nourish yourself from your tree of life, must nourish yourself with that which comes from above, the higher mind, the higher levels of consciousness, the love from above, that the higher nature of yourself, not the lower desires, the higher desires, the desire for God, for justice, for love, for light. Blossom inwardly to create the fig, and make sure that your thoughts are Vedic hymns. The leaves that the light meets when it comes to you must be beautiful, because those are the thoughts that dwell within you. When Jesus came to a tree, a fig tree, the leaves were blocking out the sun. There was only leaves and no fruit. So he said, there will never be fruit here because your thoughts are the lower desires. You didn't circumcise yourself, to come back to my first point. But you see, the mysticism is not a bad thing. That's a beautiful thing because it fixes it. It fixes the problem, just as Jesus Christ wanted it to. He didn't want men with no foreskin to go around harming one another. He wanted men who circumcised their lower desires to go around. He didn't want people to believe that he killed a tree because he couldn't eat a piece of fruit. He wanted you to understand that that is so ridiculous that the Son of God, who is all loving and all peaceful, would kill a tree because he couldn't get something to eat. So you must pause there and go, hey, just as you were told to by the Bible, pause and say, hey, something doesn't make sense here. And understand what it was trying to tell you. Now, it doesn't end there with the fig tree, because lastly, I'll add this in. This is from my other video. I've already done a video on this, but I just want to show you how I want to take this from this literal thing of circumcision to this literal belief that Jesus killed the tree, and how you can understand that these things are, and it tells you, first of all, there are still millions, billions of men getting circumcised to be Christian, for all the Bible tells you. This circumcision we speak of is not the cutting away of a man's foreskin, it is the cutting away of the lower desires to allow the heart to illuminate. Now, the last thing I want to say is Buddha. Buddha enlightened beneath the Bodhi tree. Many people know this, but what it actually says, and this is exactly as it is written, during a full moon night in May, Siddhartha went into deep meditation. As the morning star appeared in the eastern sky, he became an enlightened one, a Buddha. He was 35 years old. When the Buddha stood up at last, he gazed at the tree in gratitude to thank it for having given him shelter. From then on, the tree was known as the Bodhi tree, the tree of enlightenment. Yesterday, I liked a post of some persons who I met at a yoga workshop, and they've named a baby Bodhi. I love the name, it's beautiful, truly. But what are the secrets of this Bodhi tree, and what is the secrets of that passage there? Well, the Bodhi tree is a fig tree as well. So just as Jesus goes to a tree and there are leaves blocking the light, thus they are the bad thoughts that stop the Christ consciousness from entering within, and so you can't bear fruit, you can't blossom inwardly because of those negative desire thoughts. Just as Krishna, just as in the Vedas of the Bhagavad, to understand the Vedas, you must know a fig tree which roots face upwards, but its leaves are Vedic hymns. A fig tree blossoming inwardly, you blossom inwardly because you have good thoughts, Vedic hymns, and you nourish yourself with that which comes from above. Buddha sat under a fig tree, blossoming inwardly just as the fruit does. And as he blossomed inwardly, the light, the star rises in the east, the morning star in the east. Morning star. Is morning star mentioned in the Bible? Yes. So as the morning star rises in the east, what is the east? The east is the right. Cast your net to the right side, the right hand of God. The promised land is in the east. The right hemisphere of the brain, when you blossom inwardly and delve into meditation, is where you will find the love and the creativity, the spirituality and the wisdom of God. So of course, as the light rose in the east, so the Buddha was enlightened beneath the fig tree which blossoms inwardly. Just as in the tribes of Judah, the tribe which encamps itself to the east where the sun rises, the tribe that has 186,400 members, the constant speed of light in a vacuum. When you go to the east side, then the light can come and you can be embodied in God. But only when you allow your right hemisphere to bring the light. Only when you camp in the east. Only when the star rises in the east whilst you're blossoming inwardly. Only when you cast your net to the right side of the boat and catch 153 fish, which is 9 in numerology, which is the number of human consciousness. Only when you go to the right hemisphere by following the way will you get to where you need to be, so as you can commune with God with ease. And this is what Jesus hoped for you. This is what the Buddha hoped for you. This is what Krishna hoped for you. You see, the literal translations are not liberating us as they should. And the mystic translations do a great deal to do that, to liberate. And we just need to sit back, be still and ask, does that make more sense? Or did Jesus just kill a tree because it wouldn't give him a piece of fruit? Should we have a planet of men with no foreskins? Or should we have a planet of men without lower desires? The literal has its home and has its place, but the mystic must find a home and place with it. For it is in the mystic translations that we find many solutions. But it's within the mystic translations that we find the instructions for transformation, for men to sever their lower desires and women and be children of God, and to serve and to love and to take no thought and have no ego, and to allow God to lead them to where they need to go. The two can live side by side quite happily. And when they do live side by side in union, the literal and the mystic, the planet will know a great peace, I'm sure. God bless, guys.